welcome to part 2 of the preschool to school readiness, so motor skills for being ready for school. And today we're going to talk about bilateral integration. It's one of the most key areas that we're going to work through in all of these videos, and they straddle all the different videos that we're going to do. So we're not going to do loads of activities on this one, this is just really an introduction, but don't worry, we're still going to have James here to help us. So he's going to be my able demonstrator. So hopefully this will be a short video, and it's just an introduction to bilateral skills that I would love for you to practice and play with, so that you can help your child to be ready for school after the summer. So what is bilateral integration? Well, I guess the clue is in the name. So bi is two and lateral is two sides. And integration means that all the information is integrated together. So two sides of the brain and body working together, and it produces a coordinated movement using both sides of the body. So it affects every bit of our life. Everything that we do, we use bilateral integration, and we don't actually think about it much. So there are different kinds of bilateral integration, and it starts off very early from babyhood and right up to the complex skills that we do as an adult. So we have three different types. So the first type is symmetrical, and you'll see babies right from the start doing these symmetrical movements. They often lie on their back and play with their hands in the middle of their body, so they're doing the same movements. And then we go on to playing with toys, and they tend to play with two things and bash them together in the midline. So James is just going to demonstrate, and it might be a bit noisy. Okay.
My ears are ringing.
Two bricks, two toys, tins, but lots of banging together. Clapping, so symmetrical, the same movements. Jumping, you can jump, James. So jumping. So they, I suppose, are what we think of as two sides of the body working together, but actually it's not that often that we do symmetrical movements. We might do that for some sports, so things like jumping. We might do that for something like putting on our sock or pulling on our clothes. So we're using two hands to make the same movement. Okay, so the second bilateral integration skill is alternating. And that really means that one side moves and then the other side moves. So a good example of that would be to walk up the stairs. Starting here, James. So one foot does one job and then the other foot does it. And then you come back down, James. And then just walk towards the camera. So walking is an alternating bilateral movement, and then walk back. Good job. And then pushing pedals on a trike. So if you imagine you're a young person, so you can pretend to push the pedals of a trike, one foot then the other foot, one foot then the other foot, James, one foot, other foot. We can balance on the stairs to do that. And then there's a more complex movement of crawling. So where the top half and the bottom half are doing different things at different times on different sides of the body. So James, if you crawl towards the camera, and you'll see that we've got opposite arm and opposite leg. Up you go. Opposite arm, opposite leg, opposite arm, opposite leg, and then turn round, come back. And that's a bit faster, you can see that happening. So that's when you get much more proficient, but it's really, really important, the crawling aspect of development. It's such an early, important early bilateral skill, and we will revisit that skill in some of the other videos. And don't panic if your child hasn't crawled. we can always revisit crawling, and we can always revisit activities that replicate crawling, so don't worry. The third type, and the one that's really required for going to school, so you're building up on these levels and they all work. We need all of these skills, but this skill is a more complex skill, and that's where you have the dominant hand and the assistive hand. Now you might have noticed that your child has got a dominant hand already, so right-handed or left-handed, or you think, no, they're still swapping. Again, don't panic about that in the preschool year, that still can be common, but we really, really want to be having a dominant hand by the time they're starting to do some formal learning. You need that for writing skills. One of the lesser known aspects of that is crossing over the midline of our body. So imagine if me and James have a line down our body now. So I can cross my right hand into the left space. That's probably the opposite way around on the video. And my left hand into our right space. Now if James had an itchy left elbow, that's your shoulder, your elbow, he can go over to that space and he can scratch his elbow, so we can cross over the midline.
I actually have a
Good. And crossing your legs, so if you sit down and on the floor and cross your legs, James, like you might be asked to do at school. That's it. We take that for granted that we can actually do that skill, but that's a really complex skill.
I can't do that anymore.
Can you cross over your arms? Yeah, now can you cross them over the other way? You have to really think about that, don't you? So one side's more dominant than the other. And same as when you're crossing your legs over from one side to the other, one feels easier than the other. So by age 3, 4, you should be crossing over the midline. If they're not crossing over the midline, you'll see things like them leaning over to the side or picking up objects. Sorry, James. Picking up objects with this hand on this side and picking up objects on this side with this hand, and then swapping it into the other hand. So there's lots of indicators, and again we'll talk about that later as we're talking about probably more the fine motor skills, but also ball skills when we talk about that. So it's really, really important that we are learning bilateral integration skills, and your child has the opportunity to do that. So that dominant and helping hand, so many of our skills require that. So for example, opening a tin. James? So one hand is holding, the other hand is doing the more complex movement. And a jacket that we prepared earlier would be
Zipping up the thing.
oops, put it inside out.
Would be zipping up the.
Zipping it up, I'll let you do that. It's obviously, so you can sit down maybe and do this.
Maybe.
Sit down and do it so we can see.
Okay.
So again, one's holding and one's zipping. So you can see that James is right-handed there, that he did the more complex movement with his right hand and he held it with his left. We need that for writing particularly, and we think that when we are writing that we're really just using one hand, our dominant hand, but that other hand has such an important job to play. It doesn't just have a flat hand on the paper, it actually manipulates the paper, how hard or soft we need to be able to hold on to the paper, and it allows both sides of the brain to be working and communicating with one another when both those sides are being activated. So what do we need bilateral integration for? And I was thinking about a typical school day. Now not all of you will walk to school, but you need obviously walking, so reciprocal movements for walking. You need them for playing on the trim tail, for climbing, for stepping on the balance items. You need them for getting changed for PE. You need them for taking your jacket off, putting your jacket on for break. You need them for opening your packet for playtime. You need them for playing in the water tray. You need them for using your cutlery for eating your lunch. You need bilateral integration for manipulating the maths cubes, so that, or the elephants, or whatever you're using for counting, to put them together. You need both sides to be working together. You need them for cutting out. You need them for playing time. You need it for PE, playing a musical instrument, so learning the recorder or the keyboard or the tambourine or the triangle, whatever we're doing. The list goes on and on and on. If you want to read more, feel free to Google bilateral integration. It's absolutely fascinating, and I think we're going to have lots and lots of fun. So that's the serious bit of bilateral integration done for today, and the next video is just going to be lots and lots of fun. So it's going to be us playing together, doing lots of great things, isn't it, James?
Yeah.